people are really happy to see themselves on screen. That's what they say. And it's not the particular experience of Lesego and her kind of upbringing, but it's just generally seeing South African cues, nuances, subtleties, you know.
Hello and welcome to Shades and Layers. I'm your host, Kutwanos Richie. Today we get to explore the film industry with Johannesburg-based, award-winning writer, producer and director Karabo Lediga. Her credits include Netflix's Queen Sono and the short film she wrote and directed, What Did You Dream?, based on her own grandmother's life. Karabo is currently promoting Sabbatical, her debut feature film, so congratulations, Karabo. It is in cinemas right now in South Africa. It is a love letter to mothers and daughters. The story of the main character and her mother has sparked a lot of discussion about the unspoken truths that shape these mother-daughter dynamics in post-apartheid South Africa. In our sit-down, we get to the notion of success as it is portrayed in the film, how it's defined, and what it truly costs to have it. We also discuss film and television business models, as well as Karabo's career trajectory. We also discuss film and television business models, as well as Karabo's career trajectory as a professional in the industry. Let's get into it, friends. Here's Karabo Lediga. Can you introduce yourself, what you do for a living, and what your latest project is?
So my name is Karabo Lediga. I am a writer and director, both for television and film. And I'm based in South Africa, in Johannesburg. My latest offering is my debut feature film, and it's titled Sabbatical.
Great. Congratulations on your debut feature. How does it feel?
I feel very exposed, like I'm walking around naked and I'm on camera and people are like, can see my body parts. I feel very exposed because I guess personal work, and all work is personal, you know, it just encourages a lot of personal questions that when one makes the work, you know, you don't really anticipate until you kind of release the work.
There, yeah,
I feel exposed. But a lot of affirmations, because a lot of, you know, people seem to react quite positively to the work. I'll take that out, you know.
Yeah. So tell me, yes, what is Sabbatical about?
Sabbatical is a film about Lesego. She's in her mid-30s. When it begins, she's waking up from a blackout. She's clearly had a very long night of drinking or whatever she was doing. She's peed the bed. She's vomited on the pillow. She wakes up from darkness, looks around and realizes that she's in her childhood bedroom, which has really been transformed by her very controlling mom. It's like, it's got all the frills and the doilies, you know, and she realizes that she somehow arrived home, whatever called her there. When she tries to leave, she realizes that all her bank accounts have been suspended or frozen, and she can't really tell her mother, who's obviously has a lot of questions, that she doesn't quite voice. She can't tell her that she's in really big trouble at this big kind of bank where she works in Joburg. I guess her mom really worked hard to get her where she is. You know, this is her pride and joy, and it's a big deal for her to not be of this old world, but to be on a pedestal somewhere in kind of northern Johannesburg, the suburbs. And now the truth of her failure, and I guess unwellness spiritually and mentally is kind of
that
coming
opening
to the
scene
fore.
had me so anxious.
Anxiety is a good feeling. I was really trying to channel anxiety, you know, in me, because I have it a lot. And I was like, how do I play around with just the feeling of anxiety all the time, almost like borrowing from horror. But yeah, basically that's that. So the whole film is like the relationship with mother and daughter kind of being rebirthed into something maybe more honest and a little darker, you know.
It's interesting. I haven't seen many film like this coming out of South Africa. I mean, it's something that's been, well, at least on my mind, because I can relate to the experience having been to multiracial or Model C schools. And I haven't seen it portrayed on screen. So, I mean, what's the reception been like?
Very similar to yours, Kutrano. People are, which I didn't really expect. People are really happy to see themselves on screen. That's what they say. And it's not the particular experience of Lesego and her kind of upbringing and the Model C kind of, experience, but it's just generally seeing South African cues, nuances, subtleties,
Yeah, yeah,
mother and daughter, that respect and the untruths and the truths, and just the
yeah,
quirk.
yeah.
A lot of people react quite strongly to it because they say it's truthful. Yeah, so it's very similar to you, yeah.
Yeah, it is quite truthful, that whole idea that, there are things you cannot say in certain spaces. I mean, she still hides the fact that she smokes from her mother, let alone that and it's a relatable experience for any South African woman coming.
Absolutely, yes. Because I was thinking about, I really liked American indie films, as I was growing up. I'd be like, oh, wow, Little Miss Sunshine, all these character studies, it seems like quite indulgent to focus on small moments and not like really big turning points or events in the film. And I really wanted to do that, and
Yeah,
I thought something like Greta Gerwig's Lady Bird or whatever, which is a great mother and daughter
right.
kind of
Yeah,
film.
yeah.
But in this instance, you can't say, Mom, I hate you, and bang the door. You can't say,
No.
Mom, you know what I mean? So I wanted to play around with just like being African and respect your elders and
Yeah, yeah.
secrecy and, lack of truth as well, or honesty as well. Play around with that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But also the whole idea of being worlds apart, right? I mean, they live in two different worlds, and you see that a lot, especially, when you've had a parent who sacrificed everything to send their child to get better education, so-called better education. But, yeah, I mean, tell me about that dynamic and how it comes across in the film.
Yeah, so I was very interested in my mother's generation and mine. She grew up like fully in apartheid. I think she was born the same year as apartheid, 1948.
Yeah,
Her
yeah,
entire life is literally dictated by the system. She can't really do what she wants, or to be, in simple terms, but she couldn't really fulfill any dream she had. She didn't even have the freedom to dream,
yeah,
and she kind of poured all of this kind of hope and opportunity into her children, And I was thinking about parents who couldn't be what their children can be, go where their children can go, like travel, things like New York. I
yeah,
was in
yeah,
Amsterdam for 2 days, whatever. For them, it's literally a dream come true because they couldn't be those things, But the
yeah.
dream it's a rotten dream. It's like a fallacy because a lot of us are a few, the only few people who can fit into this world, into these
Absolutely.
white
Yeah,
schools,
yeah,
corporate South Africa. It's there's no fitting. You have to be something else to fit in. There's a sickness in it,
yeah.
you can't fully be yourself. It doesn't allow you to be because then it wouldn't be the system. Then you'd be taking it over, changing it. It
Right,
wouldn't work.
right. Yeah,
And I think parents are quite, maybe they understand, but they don't want to verbalize how brutal the success is, especially when the majority are still living under such poverty, and lack of access, lack
absolutely.
of resource.
Yeah,
There's only so few of us that are special. So I think it's difficult for parents to admit that it doesn't work,
yeah,
the
yeah,
dream doesn't work.
yeah.
And then I thought also parents are wanted to be, wanted us to be successful. As a result, we became other, literally.
Alienated,
Became
exactly.
alien.
Yeah, yeah,
We became alienated, but alien to them. There
yeah.
was like there was instant culture clash. I was like, my mom and I live in two different cultures,
Sure,
Um, and my mom is great because she's quite progressive. So she leans into my world. I try to lean into hers. But, maybe 10 years ago, it wasn't so. It was very, like, there was a lot of conflict and friction,
sure. It's a
There's a
journey.
lot
It's
of
a journey.
it's a
Yeah,
journey, yeah.
yeah,
So I thought, wow, this gap and this particular gap, my generation and my mother's, I
yeah,
think it gets, a little bit easier in inverted commas, the younger people are. But I feel like there's such
yeah,
a stark difference in the way we grew up. And I was interested in exploring that.
yeah. I also like the way you explored I mean, not only the alienness of, coming back home to your mother, but also your neighbors, you know, who didn't have the same experience or upbringing as you. It's just like this clash of worlds where Lesego particularly is trying to relate to the next door neighbors. You know, she was friends with the girl who lived next door, and now, actually, funny enough, she relates more to the daughter, who is to the neighbor, Tuli. So that was quite interesting. That that
Yeah.
alien experience is almost being gapped. That gap is being closed by the younger generation.
Absolutely. And like with God Kids, I wanted to, the next door neighbor, I really wanted to explore. And it's like, it's a problematic thing because when there's no choice, did she have a choice to pursue what Lesego pursued or not? Or did she choose this life, Because I want to explore contentment, that there's no failure in this woman, that she's quite content in her life, her
Exactly.
family.
Yeah.
She's not, hasn't failed in a way where perhaps Tuli would see it as failure and Lesego would see it as failure, because
Yeah.
I feel like she's much more mellow. She doesn't have the anxiety that Lesego has, and she's not chasing
Exactly.
the things that
Yeah.
Lesego has.
Yeah.
I found that interesting, that there's always a portrayal of people back home having kind of fallen off, or being disadvantaged, or being or wanting more, and I wanted to explore this woman like as a full character who's quite content and having a really good
I
time with her
know. She's
music.
just like got this freedom. You're like, oh my gosh,
Yes,
she's playing gigs. She's just
yes.
she's just living her best life,
She's in
doing
love and
hair, she's in love. Oh my
yes.
gosh.
Yeah.
There's a
So I was like,
freedom that
yes,
comes
girl.
with that. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Absolutely. So, I mean, I can only imagine that you drew from personal experience, but what kind of research did you do
Mhm.
for how did that look for you? How did that process look for you?
I was interested in, and I had kind of like a personal conflict in displaying kind of Black women characters, African characters who are dabbling in crime or whatever, like that kind of sinister thing.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want kind of like a negative stereotype or like a representation, but I wanted Lesego to have really fallen in a shameful way,
Mm-hmm.
and something that kind of gave her agency. She was chasing something and she pushed too far, whatever it is.
Right.
So I wanted it to have agency so that when Doris, whatever, deals with this idea, it really kind of hits hard. It can't just be, oh, she was let go, whatever. It had to be something that she did that brings shame.
Yeah.
And then I know how complicated it is with these cases, and I read up a lot on them. Black women who are kind of catapulted to these leadership positions and are
Mm-hmm.
somehow embroiled in, whether true or not, but literally thrown under the bus because they become the scapegoats. No
Right.
matter who's involved, it's
Yeah.
always this Black woman. And there's a list of them. So I
Yeah.
went through PwC, all the cases that
Yeah.
corporate,
Yeah. Yeah.
parastatals,
And there
and
are
there are a lot
lots.
of them.
Yeah.
There are lots, there are
Yeah.
lots, there are lots. So I just kind of obsessively read up on the cases. A lot of them kind of speak up later, become whistleblowers. Some
Mm.
write a book, some are completely, they vanish, or they move home and, never can be employed. So I did a lot of that research, and then I read a lot on just like mental health in corporate South Africa,
Yeah.
especially
That is
from the perspective of,
underexplored. Yeah.
yeah. So I read a lot of papers. There are a lot of kind of papers about stress, a book or two, So I kind of, because I'm a research brain, I focused a lot on that.
Mm.
Everything else was, yeah, pretty much drawn from the personal. Yeah.
Yeah. And speaking of the writing process, did you have a writer's room? What happened there, and how long did it take you?
Like I like this. How long did it take you? Because I've always heard like writers say it was a 10-year project or a 6-year project. And like, in truth, how much of the years, how much were you writing in those years?
Right.
I think it came. I
Yeah.
remember it not a lot. It
Yeah.
came to me. I don't remember the genesis of it, but I think it came to me because I had like really extensive surgery and I had to go home to recover for 6 weeks, and my
Mm-hmm.
mom had to take care of me because there was no one here. Everybody I partied with was kind of like too young, whatever. There
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
no home. So I went home, and my mom is a nurse, so she's great at that. Maybe too great, maybe like a bit suffocating. And there's like this kind of idea of people will heal you. So there's always like too many visitors. I'm like, lady, I just want a nap. I'm like, yo. And then there's like,
Oh my
she's just
gosh.
juicing, she was juicing in an incredible way. So like, I'd take pictures of her. She'd be on her way to work and she'd be like bringing these juices. I did pineapple and this and that and ding. And I was like, yo, give me Jess. And then there'd be nobody calling before they arrive. It's like, so we've arrived. I'm like, yo.
Oh my
And then
gosh.
she'd call you to come see them. And
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
like, hey.
yeah. Oh my gosh, yeah.
Like, so I think it came, and I think I was in and out of whatever it is, pain medication, whatever. So it was kind of like
Uh-huh,
a
uh-huh.
fever dream or whatever, nightmarish. I was like, this lady loves me. This is love, but it's like literally like,
It's love.
like horror love. Yeah. It was like crazy love. And I think in that moment, she was obviously very worried about me. So she
Yeah,
overdid whatever
yeah.
she would normally do. So the idea came from that and it became a short film I pitched. I remember I pitched it to some NVF women's filmmaker slate. And one of the execs at NVF was like, Karabo, if you have a problem with your mother, I think you should deal with this in therapy. So that's what it is. So I was like, sure. Oh, okay. So I left it for long and then that was probably at maybe 2080 or 2060, I don't remember.
Yeah,
Probably
yeah.
2060. And then I wanted to make it into feature film. I think I was bored and I started writing it out. So no writer's room, just going into labs, I guess.
Right.
Because I went to the Toronto Film Lab and another kind of French lab with a full script.
Mm-hmm.
But what I believe in is because I wanted kind of feedback, especially from like a global audience. Don't know why, it's an affirmation problem. But I also kind of send it around for feedback, but it's just all me. But I do send it around for feedback. Yeah.
Right, right. And speaking of labs, did you raise funding through that through those connections? How did you finance it?
So the Sabbatical is a part of a slate of 4 feature films from Diprente.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of funded as like a business model, pre-sold here, just sub-Saharan region
Mm-hmm.
with kind of festival potential and kind of recouping with sales around the world. It's like a business model. Not every film is the same. They're all kind of voice work kind of films, an attempt to go back to cinema post-COVID after Matweto and them,
Right.
So I arrived to them after the lab. They knew that because it's my brother and my sister-in-law,
Mm-hmm.
Tamsin Anderson and Kagiso Lediga. They knew that I'd been working on it and they wanted to make it part of the slate because it was quite ready.
Right.
So it became part of a slate of 4. And the next one is Kagiso's film as well. And there are 2 more. So yeah, it's funded part rebate, part South African kind of parastatal grant, part
Mm-hmm.
pre-sale to a license thing, and part private funding.
Right.
So no labs. No labs. I'm finding that applying to international film festival stuff it's not doing well for this film. And it's an
Oh,
interesting thing.
that's odd. Yeah, it's such a
Yeah,
specific story, I would expect.
I would, yeah. So not to, sound, I don't know, negative, but yeah, it's not, yeah. So that's interesting to me, but yeah.
Yeah. What do you think the taste, for film from South Africa looks like? Are they more interested in documentary or, I mean, this is like kind of a document of
Yeah, I
sorts.
know, right? It's like definitely an archiving of culture in a time for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I don't want to get into trouble and never get into festivals again, but I think there is a certain
Okay.
gaze that African films have,
Mm-hmm,
I
mm-hmm.
think people are used to a certain type of even look and feel and style and kind of, and most importantly, subject matter. I don't know. I
Mm-hmm.
do think this is not a regular kind of offering from here in
Sure.
terms of film
Yeah,
festivals at
yeah,
all. Yeah.
yeah. And how is the streaming, services, arrival of streaming services served
Mhm.
the market in general for, filmmakers such as yourself?
Yeah, I mean, so we worked on Queen Sono, we being Diprente, who
Mm-hmm.
produced and also people that I work with all the time because it's my brother and my sister-in-law. So we worked on Queen Sono, which was the first African original.
I loved it. I
And
was
no,
so
it was
sad
great.
when it didn't come
I
back.
know we're all very sad because we're always trying to push something new, like just new representation stuff, I also really liked it. And we had really cool ideas for, more seasons for Queen Sono. So that, and it launched, it started streaming in February 2020. I think that was probably the last big event before COVID hit and we went into lockdown for a long time. So that made cinema disappear. We can argue even until now. So it opened up a lot of opportunity to also meet, because once Queen Sono was streaming around the world, people were interested in South Africa. So we had a lot of meetings for other projects, meetings as a writer, because you can't go to Hollywood. People are in their house. So it just really opened up opportunities for general meetings and, the idea of an agent who's based in the US, whatever. So I think that's because of streaming, because it's so instant, and the distribution is so wide. And you just never know where it's going to pop. It could be Malaysia. It could be. So every time you're writing, we're always thinking about this granny in Malaysia. Will she understand? Whatever. So it's like, because that's it.
Sure.
But as a result, it kind of suffocates the rest of the industry and the entire model,
Right.
So there's a win and a loss. I've also been interested in licensing to streamers as well, as opposed to kind of collaborating with them for original content. I feel like it should be a mix. So licensing and then originals, working with them. It's done a lot for the industry, but I feel like we always need diversity.
Absolutely. Yeah, you can't just have one model for the entire industry. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's a problem.
Yeah. Hey, it's Shades and Layers with today's guest, Karabo Lediga. We are discussing her debut feature film, Sabbatical, which I absolutely love and recommend, and also talking about how she built her career in the film industry. Up next, we discuss the cast, energy on set, and also how the film has been received so far. So did you see a lot of mom and daughter, pairs attending the premiere of Sabbatical?
That thing was very strange for me, because we premiered at Rotterdam Film Festival, and there it's a festival,
Yeah, sure.
Like your world premiere.
That's interesting.
But it's very toned down. It's maybe your programmer, one person for the festival, the lead, the producer. There's not much drama happening.
Yeah.
There's literally nobody outside. You walk in, you watch the film, and you talk about the film. So in my head, I didn't anticipate press. I didn't anticipate, I feel so naive. So as soon as I was waiting for us to go watch the film, because I made a film for you to watch and then tell people. And then I was like,
oh my gosh, I have to do interviews.
I saw nobody. I saw one or two. I thought I'd ask them how it went, because I wanted to know about the drama, whatever. But no, I did. There were many. I know there were many, but I didn't see them. I hear they were there.
Yeah, great.
But it would be interesting to kind of delve into that, because I was trying to make this experiment to see, Black mothers and daughters watching this and kind of.
I could imagine doing that. It's also such an unusual thing, taking your mom to the cinema. It's not something that you think of, right?
I know, because I was like, what? I was like, oh. But in my idealistic way, and I work with idealistic people, we can push this, take your mother to, to the cinema. And I think nobody thinks about, they'll, in America or in everywhere else, they'll think about making films for the older female audience, whatever it is. Yeah. Diane Keaton stars in something, whatever.
Right, yeah.
But here, people just disappear.
You don't even see the old ladies on screen, right?
So. On screen. I'm just how guys, how do you, and also as I grow older, I'm am I disappearing as a target
market? Absolutely. So it's a consideration. I feel
I have vested interest in, in kind of making people exist. But how could it be normal to go to the cinema with your mom when there's nothing really to watch with her? What would you watch?
Yep. So I wouldn't even think of it. There's some content which is I'm not coming with my mom to come and watch this film.
Also, exactly, because I was sitting with my mom, who, as you can imagine, has been in the cinema many times, and she's very vocal. I was like, Karabo, but the thing that she reacted more to wasn't anything else. It's like the smoking got to her. She was like,
Oh
yo,
gosh, it's a
you see,
thing. It's a
I,
thing.
so I'm like, okay, this is very effective because I like that it gets to them,
Yeah,
because it's
yeah,
who she is. You don't want
yeah.
to see it, and you will see it. She's got a vice. Yeah.
The smoking girl. Oh, but the drunken scene where she's with those guys and she doesn't even know what she's drinking. Oh
Mm,
my gosh.
mm.
Honestly, my anxiety was really, really high watching Lesego. It's just like, this girl has no sense of self-preservation.
Everybody's like, even on set, even I got annoyed on set. I was like, you know what, Lesego, enough, Lesego. You've gotten to, like, I'm like, Lesego, man, enough. So I felt even on set, people were just like, yo, Lesego,
This girl.
yeah,
But
yeah,
what a
no,
great lead character. Mona was so
absolutely.
amazing. Yeah. But the
She was
entire
really,
cast, I mean, I was really, really believing. I even took Loiso seriously for once.
oh, good. Some people, I was like, that's a huge gamble because it was a huge gamble for me because I was like, I don't want laughter to come out. I was like, but why not? I wanted it to be on the verge, that if you know him, you'll be like, psh. But I wanted it to, because also he's so huge. I thought that was funny as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
So I'm like, I'm
A
playing. Yeah, it was a
really
big
big
gamble
guy.
for me.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
yeah.
I wanted him to be imposing in the small world, and
Hmm.
I think he did really well. Yeah, he
Yeah,
did really
yeah.
well.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. But let's talk about your career and its
Mm-hmm.
trajectory. First of all, how you got into this business and, kind of address the deeper meaning you attached to your activities when you said, okay, this is what I want to do with my life
Mm-hmm.
and I'm going for it.
I've always, I don't know, and maybe I don't think I've ever articulated this before because I feel like I had a little bit of a traumatic upbringing, as we all did, growing
Mm-hmm,
up where we
mm-hmm.
did at the
Sure.
time we grew up. But my parents got divorced. I think I was 11. It
Mm-hmm.
was before that, building up to it, it wasn't a fun time. Sometimes I think only now in therapy, I'm like, oh, shoot, I'm remembering what I kind of
Mm,
numbed or kind of locked away.
mm.
But I think I escaped in story and writing stuff, or, I think that
Right.
was my escape and fantasy. So I have like this thing of kind of going to a better place. I'll be like, oh my gosh, now I'm in Italy. Oh no, I don't like Italy. I'm in Barcelona and I'm,
Oh.
on the beach. I'm like, and then I had to like come back. This is a coping mechanism. This is not, and there's some heartbreak in going into fantasy when it's a coping mechanism where you're like running away from pain. So I have
Mm,
I have a very low threshold for pain that I'm trying to fix.
right. Mm-hmm.
But I realized there's kind of something amazing about being able to dream and fantasize and that I can channel into storytelling. So it's
Right.
almost like my Achilles heel became also my power, that
Right.
if I
Right.
focus well, that I can kind of dream up story in a way that's
Mm,
healthy and kind
mm.
of productive. And I'm only realizing this now, but I've always kind of told stories to myself to make the world better or feel better or less
Absolutely.
painful.
Yeah.
So, but because I was really good at maths and science, so I was going to study mechanical engineering, which I did for a
Mm-hmm.
year in Cape
Mm-hmm.
Town. And my mom was like, why? You're always writing songs for us. You're always telling us stories. You always write
Oh,
like
mom, power to
you.
you.
Yeah, he was like, no, but not you. And my brother was already at UCT doing drama. So you can imagine he was just like, we're cool people. We're not engineers. He had this nightmare that I'd have 10 babies in social group. I don't know where this comes
Oh
from.
my
He's just,
gosh.
if you had never, because
Why?
he had, he's just like, I guess it's escape. He's like, we can't be people of, we gotta leave. We gotta see the world.
Right.
Um, so he was very much wanting Cape Town. My mom must know that he'll take care of me in Cape Town. So
Mm.
I
Mm-hmm.
decided on engineering, but at least I'd be there.
Right.
But he and my mom really, really pushed me to try something else. And at the time, I was like, I don't really like this engineering. I don't like these people. It was very male. It
Sure.
was not
Absolutely.
nice.
Yeah. I was just thinking
So,
Cape Town engineering. Maybe
yo,
vets would have been different, but Cape
I
Town.
think
Who?
so, yeah. I think I was being called Boki,
Oh
Boki. And then I was
no.
like, oh my God, no. And I was imagining 3 more years of this or whatever in a life. And that's like, I was going to be unhappy. So I went to a fair and a career fair, and there was a new course, film media studies at UCT, that I applied to. And that was the thing. I guess, yeah, it's just honoring who I am with the help of the people who love me, I guess, yeah.
And this storytelling thing, do you think it's something that runs in the family? I mean, I know it was your escape. Where did it come from? Or it's just something you worked on?
So my maternal grandmother, Gugu Johanna Mamunya, she has more names. I made a short film about her in her honor called What Did You Dream? And I often thought, wow, what a great hero. And not like Nelson Mandela or just anybody else that's in the books or in the media or whatever. I was like, but we had heroes, She made, in a tough time, she made, with very little, she made life so soft and magical. And it was story, really.
Yeah.
And the What Did You Dream was about Fafi, or Muchina, as we called it in Pretoria. How she played it. Only later, I was like, oh, shoot, she was playing it to buy bread and stuff. But she made it like fantasy thing. You know how they ask us, what did you dream? And then you have to weave these stories. And then she'd be like, that's number 7,
Kuku.
Kuku was like, got you, yes, Dari, and then you'd get the treat, So that was kind of the film, the basis of the film. But she also told all sorts of stories with song and stuff, and all the cousins would be there, that's holidays or the ones that lived there,
Right.
So it's quite magical. And Kuku's kind of kitchen is the one that's in the Pure Monati show. That's the one where Kagiso's presenting. So Kuku's a big kind of character in our lives. I feel and then my mom says my paternal grandfather, who was like Muruti Lediga, a really great Presbyterian Muruti in Karabo.
Yeah.
She says he is the storyteller.
Right, I can imagine. I mean, preacher man.
Yeah.
Hey.
Yeah, it's quite prolific. And my mom is a great storyteller. Sometimes I'm like, no, lady, that's not how it happens. Why are you putting, you like to put spice, paprika? No. I'm always like, lady. And it's very much performative. When people come, the pitch is higher. I'm like, calm down, But my mom is very, please, let's not, lady. Yeah.
Very, very nice. And you get into this space, you took an education in this, but what tools, which people are helping you on your journey to make this a reality?
So I think what helped me the most was starting off as a researcher, because I worked as a researcher for all sorts of things,
Right.
And I guess I was a good researcher because I had a good story brain.
Yeah.
But I kind of hid in research because I was afraid of the writing. So it took me a long time to be a writer, but I was mostly a researcher. I worked on Take 5. I knew everything about HIV/AIDS. I know everything about PrEP. I know everything. So I know things about ESCOM, how lights work, because I worked on game shows, and, all sorts of stuff. So I feel like the researcher brain really made my story brain so much stronger, Sometimes people will be like, don't start with research because that will limit you. Start with story and go crazy and then come back and make it believable. Yeah. But I find that difficult. I feel like research is a great start. So that's been great. And I'm very lucky to have been in comedy because it's a very unserious space, it doesn't, and it's very welcoming. It's all sorts of, you could be a banker, now you're a stand-up comedian, you're a doctor like Musa. So it's a very liberal space and doesn't have the pressure of fame in that way. It's like they laugh at you. You're famous because they laughed at you, which is such a great thing. It's not because you are gorgeous or you want
Right, yeah.
And it's almost like a convention of crazies,
Yeah.
That you build with and you build a tone and kind of community with. And it's so open that I was a writer and then I learned how to direct and sketch because we worked on the Bantu Hour with Brahim Masekela, which is
wow.
He was a co-presenter with Kagiso. He's there.
Oh my gosh.
With the band. Yeah, you can imagine. So I'm in the writing room with Brahim and he's like, Kagiso, when I was, whatever. Then we are kind of brainstorming sketches and kind of monologues for this late night news show, which is
brilliant.
Brilliant, yeah. And it was magic, absolute magic. And with sketch, we come up with all sorts of things, like there's a haunting in the house and there's some comedy twist to it. And that's the satirical thing. As a director, I have to learn how to work with horror now. Or there's an action sequence chasing them, a thief or whatever. I have to learn how to do a chase sequence. So it became kind of a university for story, genre, and directing ultimately. So I think that community also really helped my storytelling.
Right. You're listening to Shades and Layers, and my guest today is award-winning film writer and director Karabo Lediga. Up next, we get deeper into what a successful creative career can look like. She also has some tips on what to do to get your foot in the door as a young professional, and also how to have a sustainable career once you're there. So you've had a lot of hands-on experience to sharpen your skills. So somebody who's starting out now and wants to be like you, emulate your career, what would you advise them to do?
I think that there are really two things I can think of now. I think being yourself really is your best bet, because I think there's a lot of pressure to mimic all sorts of things. It could be anything. It could be,
right.
I don't know, South Korean cinema. It could, whatever it is. It could be. I think being yourself, because that there's no other one like you. There's no other voice like you, is really a good idea. And secondly, and this is tough, it's a very tough question to answer because there's so few ways to enter this industry.
That's what I'm wondering, exactly.
It's like, because there's all these people who are like, let me tell you what to do. I'm like, I don't know. It's a tough industry and it shouldn't be, And it's all about who you know. And what worked for me is because I knew somebody who had started before me, So it's hard. I think pestering people, I get pestered a lot.
Yeah.
So, and pestering people means going to film festivals, going to screenings and chasing, watching their stuff, whatever it is that
being
they're
in
doing.
the environment, yeah.
Being in the environment. And then having always something ready. Because as a writer, one of my producers once said, work on the script before you involve anybody else. Because that's literally the most control you have. And it's your biggest investment, right? Because it's just me with my computer, whatever it is.
Right.
So make that investment, have something ready always. I found that even with the short film, I had something ready already,
Right.
When somebody says, there's a call out at this and that, and they always call outs because South Africa is one of the few kind of industries or countries in the world that funds film from like the tax base. It's
right.
I know we complain a lot, but
yeah. I didn't know that. I didn't know that. Yeah. It's usually a private venture. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like Nigeria doesn't have Nigerian Film Commission, or we don't complain. Well, you didn't give us money, only funding these other people. We have a lot. We have the tax rebate system. In Gauteng, we have the Film Commission. We have the National Film and Video Foundation. We have the IDC that funds business models. KZN has its own film commission. They all fund things. And they have a mandate to fund from tier 1 to 3, meaning beginning, student level, to mid to professional, as they say, whatever, seasoned.
Yeah.
Those things exist. And my first short film, which I don't want to show anybody, which is great because I guess it was a learning thing, was through the NAVF's female filmmaker slate, which has been going for years.
Yeah.
And at the time, somebody had dropped out, and somebody who worked on the project said, do you have anything? And I had something. I was like, oh, here's this thing. They were like, oh, this thing is great. It's great. Always have something and apply to these things, and go to the places. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Okay, that's great. So network, be out there, have something ready. And filmmaking, it's like such a time-consuming pursuit, right? You're doing this one thing. How do you maintain yourself in the meantime while you're waiting for your film to be funded? What kind of things did you do, for example?
I guess Johannesburg as an industry is very television based. I've always been like a television brain, very much a television worker. When they say you've gone to Joburg to work, I was coming here to work on television.
Yep.
And because I always want to be quite versatile, because you can't really do one thing here. It doesn't work, especially in this industry. You got to find ways to different things. So I've always been a TV writer for hire. So I write all sorts of genre. I've written prison drama. I've written spiritual psycho thriller type things, comedy. It's not always comedy, I love it. I just love playing around, And more recently, working as a director for hire as well.
Right.
I found that it's like a little bit faster in terms of the timelines, and you can kind of have more of it. 3 months here, writing can be quite long. So I'm a freelancer and I do all sorts of things, writing work mostly and directing work,
So it's finally culminated in this huge milestone, which is Sabbatical. What are your other proud moments? Do you have maybe 2 or 3 more that you'd like to share?
And then I'm really proud of my short film. It was something quite honest, and it touches people in an interesting way, because they're like, oh, it reminds you of my grandmother, It's like, this is a superpower, this thing. I'm like, I must just keep doing this thing, because I wanted to make a nostalgia piece that's kind of very like, you can almost like feel and touch this place, this memory place, memory, it's cold, that's nostalgia, really. It's sweet and it's kind of indulgent and it's one-sided, So I wanted to make that, and I'm really, really proud of it. I think generally all my writing work, really, if I saw it through as a writer, I really enjoyed it and I put myself in it. Because often I'd start projects and I'd be like, no, I don't believe with this, like I don't believe in the stereotyping. I think this is a terrible premise. I don't think this shows women in a good light, men in a good light. I don't want to put my spirit in this. And no matter what it is, it doesn't matter what it is.
Right.
But I won't be able to see it through because I like to put myself in it and kind of jam with it. I worked on Emoyeni. It was a 4-part series, and it was like a Tissue Zikubu brainchild, you know?
Oh,
and
yeah. Okay.
it was like really beautiful. They wanted to make this kind of somewhere between the spiritual, African spiritual realm and psychology. Like it's this kind of blurred line. So I wrote a script for that series. And, you know, as a writer, you have to send sample writing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really beautiful, interesting. So I'd send this as some sample my sample writing, and people would be like, "Ooh, what is this? This has really done well for my, you know, sending people my sample writing." Queen Sono was also a great milestone as well. Really lovely innovation as well, something new, you know.
Yeah.
There are lots of things I'm proud of. Mostly my writing work. Yeah.
Sure. And who is on your list of people I have to meet in this lifetime? Do you have some famous Black women you'd like to? I'd say famous Black women.
Famous Black women. It's always Ava DuVernay, man. You know.
Yeah.
I just think there's something. I was having a conversation with a friend and kind of colleague today. He wanted to meet to say what next, Karabo. So I had to like, okay, what are we doing next? And I don't know, you know. And yesterday, a friend of mine who's a cinematographer and director, Natalie Harhoff, sent me.
I know Natalie.
Yeah,
she worked with us.
Sent me a podcast.
Right, yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
She sent me a podcast from 2019, Ava DuVernay, and she was like, "I don't know if you've heard this, but this kind of made me think of you." And then I was in an interview and somebody asked me the same question. I was like, "Oh, Ava DuVernay." Before that, I was like, "Whoa, look at this!" You know. So I listened to it last night, and I was like, "She's very." I guess she's not comfortable with the fact that she has to do more than just make films, you know, because her peers who are not Black women just make films. They're like, what's next?
For fun,
you know?
for fun, yeah.
She has to do the work to create spaces for herself first and for other Black women, you know?
Yeah.
So her work is triple fold, double fold. It's like, it's a burden because it takes away from creative life, you know?
Right.
But she does it because there's nothing in place for it. Because because I feel like I've also been very passive. I wait, I'm like, oh, this festival said no, I'm terrible. Or this festival said no, I'm not good, you know? But why does the festival say no? How do I get my films to be seen by, you know, people, maybe not this big festival, but maybe a Black film festival? Who do I know? You know what I mean?
Right.
So being kind of proactive in creating something new. Even this film is because I could have done what festivals like, or what I've seen they like, or I could have done what streamers like. I could have, you know, abided by what's already there. But I was like, oh, let me be honest. And there's a price to pay, but there's opportunity with honesty, whatever. But I feel like I'm already kind of doing something more than just creating. And I think I need to do more. Like Ava, you know, she does so much, creates so much, and she comes up with solutions for the industry, for distribution, for representation, you know. I also really like teaching and developing young voices as well. So I feel like, I'd like to just chill with Ava and kind of, definitely Ava DuVernay. I mean, there are many others, but she really stands out,
Yeah. What do you think of the Shonda Rhimes model?
I think as a television beast, as somebody who works in television, I think she's incredible in what she does. And television is interesting because it has such different kind of demands as well, you know? It's the success of it is next season. Absolutely. The success of it is
going,
you know, you have to keep going, you know? And I think even us as a collective, Queen Sono one time, whatever, there's a lot of one time because you're trying to break ground, you know? Just like change the vibe, change the tone, just change the offering. And it's hard to start because viewers are not used to it, or streamers don't market it well because it's just not what has worked for the algorithm or whatever it is. I feel like she figured it out very well, especially starting with things like Grey's Anatomy, something quite palatable for everybody, and then kind of going into very specific. Very clever.
That was very smart, clever.
that's like a TV brain, like that's like a master of television, you know?
Yeah.
And then she can do things, she did private practice, you know, interesting things that can be a little bit more specific or more black or whatever it is. But she built this thing, and that's how just television works, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, she's incredible.
Speaking of doing more than make creative pursuits, what kind of platforms or opportunities do you think a film like Sabbatical gives access to or has opened now?
It was always the idea of let me make a calling card. My desires kind of changed, you know, when you put out something and you have different expectations of it and something else comes, you're like, oh shoot, I thought I'd just get a ticket into, I don't know, CAA and have meetings with people who want, you know, it's always affirmation,
Sure.
it's always external, it's always foreign, it's always Western, you know. But I think I'd like somebody to understand the voice. This is a voice.
Sure.
It's always going to be this. And think it's interesting enough to fund more of this voice. And it would be interesting if it was maybe like a straight up kind of comedy series with like a black woman lead who's kind of the antithesis of Black Girl Magic. She's like really messed up, like this lead in my film, you know. Somebody who just, and I wanted to call it Elder in Training. Like, I was like, we're not sucks. We're not. We might look it, but we don't know what's happening. If somebody says "Intasifela Karin," I'm like, I don't know, lady. Where are the lyrics? Let me Google. You know.
Yeah.
So I find this bumbling thing, or the opposite of perfection, and like kind of black excellence, interesting. You know.
Yeah.
So I feel like this is a good calling card for that kind of offering. But to make other feature films in the same vein, I feel like I'm obsessed with this divide, almost like we immigrants in the same country.
Absolutely. And those wounds are still there, man. I mean, imagine being the first, I mean, we were some of the next, but the first batch of black girls who like went to private schools. Well, then.
Hey, can you just imagine? And you also left home in a taxi. Some of us, you know, in a Kumbi, you woke up at 4. Your parents are like, hey, make it work, you know?
Yeah.
And a lot of it is just silent suffering, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So I'm obsessed. I can't, even going from Soshanguve, I always say Soshanguve, but I'm sure I was living somewhere else at the time, to UCT, for me, it was like, oh, guys, can you imagine being thrust into this place?
Yeah, I mean...
I didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
So I feel like I'm obsessed with this divide. Hopefully I'll get it out of my system. But yeah, there seems to be a lot of this kind of commentary.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Yeah.
Great. So Sabbatical is out. You can watch it in cinemas in South Africa for now. Yeah. Okay. Any plans for streaming or other ways to watch it?
Absolutely. Eventually, we would like to have it on a streaming platform. I think it's interesting for filmmakers to be allowed the opportunity to exploit all the different bits of the value chain, you know. Cinema's hard here, but I think it's a good kind of effort. If it's not mine, maybe the next film from somebody else, just to start that appetite, because I think filmmakers need to start recouping also from cinema, you know.
Yeah.
Because the streamers don't always market your stuff. Sometimes they swallow your films to never be heard of again. So it doesn't work for the director or the production company. You know, you might get a fee, but I think it's important to try and exploit every kind of window, every single, even just to try, you know, because even the distributors are like, it's a hard environment. We're like, okay, it's hard. Let's try. Let's just try. Yeah. So eventually it will be, I won't say when until people go to watch it in the cinema.
Great. Let's get them out there, man.
Yeah. It's
such a relatable story. Come on. We'll
get them out there. And it's also entertaining.
Exactly.
I want to make something like entertaining, like, you know,
No, it's great fun and so much better than all these, you know, made for Netflix things that you find. I mean, I was like proper entertained. I was invested in the characters.
Oh my God, do you know what's going to happen
next?
Know? I really also wanted to make this French lab. It's called the Group West that I went to. It was all COVID, so it was online, but for a year. Their model is to have like these kind of French new wave, kind of very artistic kind of cinema merge with kind of American entertainment, like plot-driven stuff. I was interested in that. I was like, oh, you could have an artistic piece, because I don't want navel gazing. I don't want just people being like, oh, wank, wank. I feel like
Sure.
it's so expensive. I feel like it should be doing more than just you kind of talking about your life. I don't know. Imagine me in like recovering from surgery, and that's my story. I don't know. So I had to come up with plot and twists and turns, which I like that model, so that it's actually commercially viable and it hooks somebody and it's entertaining. Yeah.
So if people want to work with you, invite you to a talk or a film festival, where can they find you?
My email address, I'm very proud to say I have no unread emails in my inbox.
Wow.
Like none. I've seen people like that. I was like, no. I'm always waiting for somebody. Guilty. Everybody else. I'm like, I will read every email. I don't know why. But my email address is klediga@gmail.com, klediga@gmail.com.
Great. Perfect. And that is all from me this time around. Thanks to Karabo for sharing his story. Do go and check out Sabbatical. You don't have to be South African or a mother-daughter pair to enjoy it. It's just a great story told by a great storyteller. More information is available in the show notes. Thanks for listening, and remember to share this episode with a friend. I'm Kutwanos Kosana Richie, and until next time, please do take good care.